Hello there, and welcome back to another episode of the Star Bros with the illustrious SWP1, also known as Sweepy.
How we doing, boys?
That's the greatest intro. How you doing? It's so
How you doing,
Italian.
boys?
Yeah, and myself, Dash. Of course, it's great to be back after a little bit of a hiatus. I'm actually really stoked. I really miss the communal effect of just like speaking with the bros. It really does feel like a kind of fireside chat, which is what I've always wanted. What about yourself?
Yeah, no, I felt weird actually not doing the cast for 1 week. I missed you.
I missed you too, dude. Let's not give it all away. You're gonna make me uncomfortable, throwing me off
Yeah,
kilter.
no,
I love it.
that's good. There's been a few things happening in the community in the Star Wars verse, hasn't there, online? There's been a few things circulating.
It's very strange time for Star Wars. I feel like, and hello there to everybody. I love the fact that we figured out how to say hello there to all of you beautiful people, including the Thrawn fingered High Imperium. It feels like, and tell me if I'm wrong here, the Mandalorian and Grogu, which should have been a season 4, arguably, of Mando, which I think it would have been a weak season. Who cares? But because it was an 8-year hiatus from movies at the theater, has really eroded the goodwill, where people have lost it's so lackluster. The hype has just been drained, like the color has drained out of the fandom. And now it feels like people are fighting and taking shots, like the remnants of fighting, the Imperial remnants are like brawling. Do you get that?
Yeah, I feel as though it's done like a re it's like it's re-sparked like the division of, I guess, the fandom, but now it's from a different talking point. Before it would have been from the movie, and now it looks like I see both sides of it, but you're right. It's sort of galvanized, I think, that sort of discourse online, where I see people barracking it, and then I see people really strongly like, we didn't deserve this, we deserve better, sort of thing. And I guess from that camp, people are sort of like, I'm still just losing faith. And it's funny because every time I see that argument, it's like it was like your Twitter post when they wanted to make that anthology about Creamy Sheev, and people are just like, don't touch Sheev Palpatine, don't touch Sheev Palpatine, because people now are so cautious of Disney touching like really cool legacy characters that they just don't want them to do it, just in case they ruin it.
I
That's
agree.
not a
Look, that
good,
was actually
that's
the
not a
second
good thing.
article. This is
Oh,
not. This
yeah.
is why I told you I did. Yeah, we'll actually jump into that. I also didn't mean to cut you off and throw this up. I actually did the share screen while you're talking. I thought we can segue into this big. This is like a big thing that's circulating at the moment. But I thought, like, I wanted to hear your take. I didn't want us to talk about it. First of all, though, smoking up for the boys. Here's the good 2 hours. Cheers, mates. Do you think us fans will like Starfighter more than Mando and Grogu?
Yeah.
Guess what, Peter B. Parker? Thank you so much, by the way. You did not have to. And it's funny that it's like all of you are just touching on everything. I only have 3 articles that I was planning on sharing. And of course, the other one was Starfighter. We'll get to that because I think that Starfighter is an anomaly, and I think that there is a lot to unpack with Starfighter, just personally. So we'll get to that, but I appreciate you so much, dude. So every time I share screen, it just jumps me out. Not that anybody wants to hear me complain about technical difficulties, but here we are. Yeah, I know. All right, so I'm going to have to pull this down. Star Wars has lost 85% of its audience, and Lucasfilm's fix sounds worse. Let's unpack this first. How do you feel? What's your gut reaction when you hear Star Wars has lost 85% of its audience?
Well, see, I actually haven't read any of the articles. I saw it online, and I didn't actually click into any of that news yet, funnily enough. So this is like me going through the article raw. But like, first off, when I see 85% of its audience is lost, I'm like, where are the numbers for that? Like, how do you quantify that? Because 85% is a
Same,
huge
same.
fucking number.
Look. Okay, I'll be a prick and say this. I believed it. I wanted to believe it. My bias of like, okay, Disney's really killed the goodwill, especially after Mando and Grogu. I thought like 85%. But then the intellectual, like the logical, at least, or rational side of my brain goes, how do you quantify it? Like, who's just throwing it? Like, it's the internet where you're just like, oh, fuck it. 85% of people gone. Upteenth people know that. And you're like, what? You're just throwing out stats. Like, I agree that it's gutted Star Wars fandom and it's divided. And you see that in the numbers. You cannot, I think, in good faith, intellectually, be honest and say, hey, Star Wars hasn't lost a lot of the fandom just from sheer numbers alone. Since the Acolyte, especially, or the sequels, really. But like 85% is like they just gone.
Yeah, they plucked out of their ass completely.
Yeah. I wouldn't see the metrics. I mean, what did they used to have the Nielsen ratings for TV or something? Like, what the fuck? He's just like 85%.
Nielsen ratings were always great for shows. It's really weird when I say 85% of the fan base, right? Like I'm so stunned because when Star Wars is in such like a shit place, and then I go to something like Celebration and I see the amount of people in the hype, you kind of just like, is it that dead? Like, people are still coming out in droves, spending stupid amounts of money. It's just, I guess they're maybe being selective of the media they're consuming. Because I think the outside of the media, the Star Wars community, is where it goes strong. Like with the 501st Legions, all that kind of stuff, the community groups. Like, that stuff still burns like really, really hot. Like, people still love Star Wars outside of what Disney's doing, which I think is still amazing. Like, you got OT fans, for example, and they just gather around and just do OT shit. You know what I mean?
Okay. I got two responses to that. First is I think that the hardcores are always going to hardcore, but also they have brought in a new level of casual fan, or I think that conventions will always be strong for cosplayers and people who want to rep. They want to go there and engage with other fans, but also themselves. And I think that that's a small percentile or litmus test of like, okay, so we got a batch of 50,000 people. That's pretty easy globally to get them to kind of go. I don't think that speaks to the wider audience, and apathy is strong. The second thing is, and this is a freak occurrence, as you know, I'm not a fan of Disney Star Wars whatsoever, and I'm vocal. I don't care if you love it, but what I'm finding that's different is I started actually, and Star Wars is always going to be my favorite fandom, I started sliding sideways into Lord of the Rings. And I'm not a Lord of the Rings dude. I love the novels, but I was never a movie guy. I wasn't like, when I see like Frodo and Sam and the hobbits like basically gang banging on the bed, I'm just like, oh God. Like I like it a lot, but it's a little too namby-pamby for me, in the words of Liam Neeson. That it's like Game of Thrones is a little too hardcore, I think, in a lot of aspects. I like Knight of the Seven Realms, but I digress. I'm finding that the lore, though, because I've got that loretism, I love to go deep. I'm watching YouTube videos about Lord of the Rings, and as much of like Rings of Power kind of shit on that, and a lot of what Amazon's done has hurt it, I feel like that fandom, maybe I'm from the outside looking in, the fandom isn't as divided or corrupted. Like, it's not as negative, but it's also like they've only got what? J.R.R. Tolkien's books and Christopher Tolkien's books afterwards, and they're still going strong all these years later. Yet we've got a plethora of content from the EU with Star Wars, but you don't see many EU bros talking about the EU versus what Disney's done.
Well, I mean, like, look, simply, I mean, like, Tolkien's is probably the best story writer of our age. You know what I mean? I think the Lord of the Rings, in written aspect, the Lord of the Rings is the best written trilogy in history. Like, you know what I mean?
Agreed.
Like, that man was just that talented. So I guess when you have someone like Tolkien writing a book, they're going to just talk about that. Similarly, like, obviously JK is no Tolkien by any stretch of the imagination, but her world building and imagination as well will live on through her books as well. Similarly, like, if you took another author to JK's world, it wouldn't really work. obviously you Tolkien can only do Tolkien, but with the fan base being split, I think the original fan base of Lord of the Rings, they collectively united and went, the Rings of Power can suck it. And then you have a lot of casual fans coming into the new age arguing it. But that core fan base of Lord of the, in my opinion, of Lord of the Rings, kind of went like, no, Rings of Power is an absolute abomination. It insults Tolkien basically. And I think the biggest ticker for them was when they promoted it, when Amazon promoted it, and they said we want to write the story that Tolkien didn't write. Now, when you say that about such an amazing writer that wrote the Lord of the Rings, people automatically go, shut your mouth, don't even say that sort of thing, sort of comment, sort of pushback. So like that's where I see it's divided, normies versus cores.
Well, maybe, okay, so how come, sorry, just to question that, like if you can expand on it. I feel Kathleen Kennedy and say like things like the sequels and the Acolyte did the exact same thing, where they stuck their chin out and said, we've got nothing to base our trilogy off, so we're going to do our own interpretation. We know better than the author. And George R.R. Martin once said, and I loved it, like those who think they know better than the people who made it popular seldom are right, and they create like abominations basically. So how come if the sequels and the Acolyte are doing the same corruptive, like just fucking around with Star Wars thinking they know better than George or EU or whatever, how come the fandom in Star Wars didn't unite?
Because they didn't unite because you saw a lot of like rule division in The Last Jedi. That was the point where the fan base went rip. And there were legitimately people who enjoyed that story point. And I think that's the big difference. There was a lot of us that hated it and a lot of Star Wars fans that loved it. Like you saw long-time Star Wars fans from the OT enjoy it. And like I can't take it away from them. I can look at them and go, you have shit taste. Like I hated that story. No, but like as like subjectively, I'm like, that's crap. No. Like I hated it. But like I think that's the big difference where like early on people were really divided in that story point. Because like even though that movie, you know, personally I didn't like those story points. Like I didn't like Luke dying from like he died from heat stroke to me. And a lot of the way it was done.
Heat stroke.
He did. He died of heat stroke looking at the twin suns and perished.
Dude, I know he's so powerful. Dude. Do you think that it's because the EU wrote such a good Luke with his Jedi Academy and his story 40, 50 years on? We knew what peak we already had, and to take that away for heat stroke Luke dying, you know, just he OD'd on the Force. Do you think that also hurt a lot? Because J.R. Tolkien, if he kept writing shit more and then Amazon bought it and then they disregarded Tolkien, I think that's the difference as well, as Disney had a plethora of content, you know, let's say the top 10% of the EU, because not all of it was great. I'm not going to say that in good faith. Do you think that because they disregarded so much good content, we knew how good Luke could be, and to have him undercut just felt like such a shit? But like say a young fan who saw The Last Jedi who hadn't read a book, that's totally acceptable. It's not Jake Skywalker. That's actually Luke, like peak Luke. They're like, oh my God, he sacrificed himself.
I think Disney suffered from a problem of how to transition from new and old, and they did it in a way of petulance, snarkiness, and like belittling. And like, I'm not sure if that was a sort of cultural shift in America where people just like had to shit on something to move on, because I remember some of the arguments going forward, which was they'll bring up, let's just say, a contentious story point or plot point, maybe in the OT or the prequels, and they use the argument, they're like, yeah, but this doesn't ship. My argument to that is, if it was shit before, it's shit now. You're not meant to justify the shitness that you just got now with previous shit. You're meant to look at all the shit that was wrong and then clean that shit up and move forward. So like, you know what I mean? So like, I always like that comment where like they go, well, that was a bad point. I'm like, that's fucking fantastic. We're talking about The Last Jedi here. We can all collectively understand objectively if something's bad. But like, you know, that's how you look at history and move forward and like how to better it. Like, for example, you know, people go, oh, but the dialogue in the prequels was shit. And I'm like, okay, but George also admitted he wasn't really a good dialogue guy. Like that was one of—
he should have outsourced that, baby. He should have done it.
Well, perfectly in Empire, he used Irvin Kershner, which was his teacher at the university.
Right. And how good was Kershner?
that's because he knew Kirshner was a good character writer. He goes, I need people to like really write the characters and make them have cohesion
Right.
and build that. And Kirshner did that beautifully. So
And so
like,
did his ex-wife, Marsha. She was the editor that saved a new heart. It's almost like his
rest in
hubris
peace,
caught
Papa.
up with him.
Yeah.
Rest in peace. His hubris
Yeah.
caught up a little bit. George Lucas is, I would say, second to none. I like his world building better than anybody. Tolkien, I get the argument, but for me personally, his number one world building. Everybody has weaknesses and strengths, and he should have surrounded himself not with yes men, but people who said, "Hey, you're shit." But it was, I guess, a symptom of him not having studios funding it in himself. It's weird that friction makes fire, and that, say, you think giving him all the power would make the best product, but in some ways having pushback may help. And that is also that. Also, we've got to just stop on this note, talk about the 15%. I cannot believe it. I'm going to fall over. Z Corp Alpha 2462. You did not have to. Thank you so much. And he said, well, $50 dues. You want to read the comment? Because I love this.
Well, I must be in that 15%. I'll have lightsabers on display next to my Asian katanas in my dining room.
I love that so much. So my brother's like a katana guy. He does Aido, the kendo variant. And
is it the Kido?
It's like Aido. It's not like disarming. It's literally kendo, but there's a variation that he does, and he's so obsessed with the katanas. So I can picture it in my head. The first thing my brother was saying to me, he was like, the other month, he was like, send me a lightsaber. And I know that they'll be like, I just can't have it. Imagine him getting a lightsaber and him just kicking the shit out of me when I see him. I have been training for this moment.
Twice the pride, double the fall.
Double the fall. Yeah. It's so funny because my brother and I, as you've seen his face, we look very similar, but he's got more like Asian eye. I can't believe I did that with my eye. He's got more Asian eyes, so people actually can mistake him for Asian. And so when he's in the full getup, he looks like he's the Shogun. He does, like, he actually looks like, I'm like, holy shit.
This comes up to you.
You dishonored the family. I'm like, what the fuck?
I circumcise you now. No, yeah.
Twice. That's not indicative that I am or not. I'm not saying I don't.
Fuck. That's good.
And the funny thing is, I want to clarify if I am or not, but now I don't want to, because who needs to know? Who needs to picture that?
Picturing it in their head. Anyway.
This is why we're peeking out. We haven't even got to the article.
Sorry, boys.
This is what I want, though. This is exactly what I want. Do we want to read the article?
Yeah. All right.
Lucasfilm reportedly has a new fix for Star Wars, and somehow it sounds more like the same problem. Chase young viewers, aim for PG-13. See, this is, let me zoom in on this. I'm going to make a video arguing Star Wars should be for adults, as you know, but build everything inside a top-down creative framework. Use AI to help generate environments and visual effects. Make Star Wars feel special again. It does. It sounds like scathing satire. But before Lucasfilm chases a new audience, cosmicbook.news, the fuck is that? It might help to deal with one it already lost. Here's the number that should keep someone at Lucasfilm up at night: 85%. They've got the 85. Are they going to justify?
Bold.
That's roughly. Well, roughly is a big word when you're not saying, you're not proving it. That's roughly how much of its theatrical audience Star Wars has shed between its Disney era box office peak and its newest big screen entry. You don't need a galaxy brain take to see it. You need a calculator. This is kind of like shit talking people. See, I will debate people 24/7, but I feel like when you speak down to them a little bit, it's like a little incendiary or whatever.
Sounds like a Anita Sarkeesian hit piece.
What, like anti-Sarkeesian? In 2015, Star Wars The Force Awakens detonated. I love that word. It's like the only time I would use the word detonated is if someone used the bathroom before me, and I was like,
you may fire one minute. You may fire one minute.
You can do a second little ad lib. $2 billion worldwide per Box Office Mojo, the kind of cultural event run that made Disney's $4 billion Lucasfilm purchase look like a steal. Okay. 10 years later, The Mandalorian and Grogu was grinding towards 316 million worldwide and counting. Run the math. That's about 85%. There we go. Decline. Put bluntly, you can make the argument that Star Wars has lost 85% of its audience. Likewise, Nielsen data, our favorite, has shown a drop of over 70% in viewership for the Star Wars shows on Disney Plus. Yeah, I would take that. I would say,
But wait, doesn't that negate the previous numbers? Like, I mean, like when they say the data, they're not saying if they did it across the spectrum of the shows, because Maul would have had a shitload of huge viewership. But are they just using the Alkalite numbers?
I don't know, dude. I mean, that's
Yeah,
the
like the new
problem with
shit.
people spitting out numbers. Like, again, I agree with losing audience, but I still want fairness. I still want people to actually, quantify things and do it justice, not just be like, well, 99% of people hate this. The spin-off excuse falls apart fast. The first defense is obvious. Lucasfilm's defenders will say the comparison isn't fair. Oh God, they've got you here, Sweepy. They got you. The Force Awakens was a saga film, the return after a decade and the launch of a numbered trilogy built around Luke, Han, and Leia. But The Mandalorian and Grogu was a spin-off from Disney Plus show. Of course it made less, except that excuse already has a name, and that is Rogue One. Okay, Rogue One was peak Disney. That was a spin-off too. No episode number, no Skywalkers headlining, a side story about stealing the Death Star plan, starring characters most general audience had never heard of, and it made over $1 billion in 2016. Yeah, but it was layered between sequels when the hype was still really high. So between episodes 8 and 9 was peak placement. But then again, Solo did flop. So anyway, that's the point. Star Wars was a spin-off was still an event because the brand was the draw, agreed, not the number on the poster. People showed up because it said Star Wars. That's what an event franchise looks like. So no, The Mandalorian and Grogu didn't underperform because it's a spin-off. Rogue One proved a spin-off can clear $1 billion. It underperformed because it's Star Wars in 2026, and that means something very different than Star Wars in 2016. And if the defense is Solo, fuck, they're getting ahead of us. That doesn't get Lucasfilm off the hook either. Solo didn't prove Star Wars spin-offs were doomed. It proved that fallout from The Last Jedi had already hit the brand, agreed, but also Solo was weak. It arrived 6 months later and bombed. The audience walked out on The Last Jedi, didn't come back for the next one. The Mandalorian and Grogu is what the crack looks like 8 years later after the brand damage became impossible to hide.
Is that true though? See, like
What?
that statement I don't necessarily agree with. And they said, we came in droves for The Last Jedi and then didn't show up for the next one. That's not true. The Rise of Skywalker made money. It was just a heaping pile of shit.
No, I think that the goodwill and the numbers would have dropped. Like if 8 was peak, 9 would have blown. I 1,000% agree. Would have rocked. Anyway, the box office verdict has already delivered. Has already delivered the verdict. With the spin-off excuse gone, the trajectory speaks for itself. At around 316 million worldwide and bleeding theaters, The Mandalorian and Grogu is tracking to finish as the lowest grossing live-action Star Wars movie ever made. Below even Solo, that 2018 bomb that became the franchise's punchline. That matters because Solo, coming right after the fan base splitting The Last Jedi, helped send Star Wars movies into a years-long theatrical exile. The Mandalorian and Grogu is already the lowest grossing live-action Star Wars film domestically, and it's on pace to become the first miss at $200 million at home. And the humiliation wasn't just in the final total, it was visible by the second weekend when Obsession, I was just thinking of Obsession when they said that, a $750,000 horror original with no IP, no franchise, and no stars knocked Star Wars out of the #1 spot. It supposedly beat Avengers Endgame domestically, like pacing time for time. Obsession, and the brand's return to the big screen got beaten on home turf by a movie made for less than a Star Wars catering bill. Okay, so they just keep on punching the same thing home. I think the sad commentary about this is that the goodwill has eroded. We can quantifiably say that is absolutely true. Obsession proves that people want good storytelling. But even if all of that's true, the problem is if Disney still has the IP and people are like, myself included, like, okay, don't see Disney Star Wars movies. Let's say they hold on to it for another 10 years in life support. The problem is that we love the world. And so somebody taking the franchise hostage means you don't get any stories from a world that's beloved. That's my biggest problem. Like, say, these big companies like Blizzard, what they're doing with Warcraft or Diablo, or like these companies that get Halo, you know, Lord of the Rings with Rings of Power. Like, when people do such damage to an IP, and people are like, "That's it. We're going to vote with our money," but they just limp along, or people then go and see, say, some lackluster Star Wars, and it becomes a shell of itself. I think my biggest problem is the fear that the IP just languishes in this kind of purgatory, and we all just want great Star Wars. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, like I agree. I mean, I think the goodwill is like probably like that point that I touched on before, where it's just like people just have zero faith that it will be decent. Um, but see, with the Mandalorian Grogu, like, did you see it as marketed or pushed as much as Rogue One? Because I didn't see it. It's like they knew that it was gonna be what it was. They sort of like I think they braced for it. So like in my head, I'm like strategically, I don't think they wanted to release it. I think they just invested money into it under KK and they had to. So like I wouldn't know, like, could they just go, screw it, let's scrap it. But then, people optically would go back and go, oh, well, look, it's still happening, even when Kathleen's not there, they're just scrapping projects left, right, and center. Like, do you think they would have been just like, let's just release it, see if we can make something of it? We've already invested so much into it. We don't want that old narrative to chase us.
I've had that thought. I've had that thought of like,
Yeah.
what if they were so invested, they were like, we've got two options. We want to chase excellence and set the benchmark, but we've spent so much money and we don't want to piss people off by canceling. We're going to limply just let this thing do what it does. The problem I have is I don't think you should release anything but excellence, and that it's eroded good. They didn't have the goodwill to just have a miss. If they put that out as a movie on Disney Plus, marketed for kids between seasons, and it was hammering, and there was 5 other movies coming out in the year, nobody would blink. 7-8 years between releases theatrically, and they come out with this limp, for me, steaming pile of shit. Horrible. And obviously, I think that the worst part for me personally is that I love people having differing opinions. If you love the sequels, prequels, whatever, more than the OT, I praise you. I'm an EU guy, as everybody knows, but like, we're all fans. But it's become such a dredging slop mat. Like, you're in the mud with each other, it feels like. I said, compared to like Lord of the Rings, where I can handle Disney not hitting the mark more than I can handle this apathy. And like, I feel like we're at below ground zero as a fandom. And I don't like that. I like to see people, I don't mind the arguing, but I don't like where there's this vicious us versus them. Do you think that this fandom has that more than, say, like Lord of the Rings or other one? Like, and I'm not going to go into it, but to that point, The Last Jedi, when I saw that dude, and I always bring him up, that was a watershed moment. That dude who cries in all the trailers, hilarious. Like, that's his one shtick, and he has to do it forever. When the political pundits had a go at him, and then the other side of the politics had a go at them, I feel like they entrenched themselves. Disney did as well with politics as well, and it became even worse. Like, we're like, the worst things that could happen to a franchise, making it political, releasing something lackluster. Like, I want so much more for the fandom.
That's something also Tolkien was against, was the inclusion of political allegories into story writing. He was quite against it.
Right.
So, but I guess, like, look, when I look at this, there's so many points. It's just like Last Jedi happened, a failure to listen. The Chud channels were born, the grifters. They were. like at the start, they're like the mafia to me. They had a point because no, well, because at one point they were valid because they were the voice of people that were getting oppressed
I
in the
agree. I
fandom.
think they
They
do a
would
service.
they did do so, then they became another evil. So now you have sections on the internet where
Why
call
would
them
you say
grifters.
evil though? If you want to like just
So
elaborate.
I think those channels have become an evil because they fail to even say good job on certain things. For example, none of them even acknowledged Maul's existence, that Shadow Lord show, and that was a great show. So you know what I mean? So it's just like if you're only going to pick and choose the horrible things that come out of a franchise and not give them a kudos where they hit the mark, then that's disingenuous, just as disingenuous as a shield to me. So you need to be honest and give kudos where kudos is a due. Um, so for example, like I think there's sections of the internet that don't do the fandom justice now, where they're waiting to pounce. They'll spin narratives like "fuck Mark Zero" even still exists. No offense, I don't want to call him out, but like, sorry, I'm being a dick. Like where people just make shit up.
I love you,
Um,
Mike. I'm sorry, I'm just stoking that fire. Yeah.
um,
Mike and I had our own dust up ages ago. So funny. I don't care. I
um,
like that he exists though. At least he's. Oh no, actually, he got political, didn't he? Who cares? Like, let's not get derailed on Mike Zero. But I just
of course.
people who are comedic though. I love Mike Zero that he exists. I like that. Like I love people. I do. I love people who like. I cannot fathom where they're coming from, and it's like entertainment. I'm glued. I'm like, bro, he's fucking going hard.
He's tinfoil hatting hard.
I know. I love him.
And then there's also another point where I think Microsoft, no, Meta, recently just fired their whole entire PR team because they said they were causing problems in the community. So similarly to Disney, their PR teams and the way they interacted with the fandom, again, was petulant, belligerent, like they were just snarky. That's not a good way to talk to your customers. If there's a grievance where you can say even 40% of your fan base is pissed off about something that happened in a movie, you need to listen to that because that's 40% of your fan base. You had such a cohesive fan base. I mean, I understand the prequel hate was gross and putrid.
Why?
Yeah, like the prequel
Why
hate
don't
was
you
back
like
in the day.
prequel hate? Why? I'm like,
No, I said I understand the prequel hate was big before, but it wasn't as polarizing as The Last Jedi, for
but
example.
it's just people who just didn't like it. It wasn't attacking each other. It's just like this is slop. Like George's writing was weak or whatever. And I was like, I
Well,
love
they
that.
did.
I love that discourse where it's like people just say what they love or they don't love. I think to
They
your point, and to so that we don't get attacked by everybody, come at us, especially Sweep. It's at Sweep SWP1 on X if you want to take low blows.
I bite back.
The uniting factor between what he's talking about, a grifter and a shill, is inauthenticity. People who say things they don't believe for either
Narration.
monetary, adulation in the community, to build a community or whatever. So like, we don't have a problem. I can speak for both of us. I think if you love something genuinely or you hate it, I don't see a difference. I think that you should express yourself, hopefully in a respectful way. But like, there's no difference. That's just like you're a fan and you want the best for the fandom. If you lie, like you said, if you refuse to acknowledge the bad parts or refuse to acknowledge the good parts, you're a grifter or a shell, and you should be disavowed. You should not have an opinion if you're going to lie.
Yeah,
I don't think that's a
100%.
controversial thing to say. Like, all you've got is your authenticity on this platform.
So, like, similarly though, like with the prequel hate back in the day, I mean, like, there was a smaller subsect of fans, like just like what they did to Jake Lloyd and what they did to Ahmed Best. You know what I mean? Like, bullying them.
Okay, no, but that's
consistently.
personal. That is, you disavow that, like a 10-year-old
Yeah,
or like a
100%.
dude. Though I don't
Yeah.
actually understand, and this is going to be very, very controversial. I'm going to get in trouble for this. I understand depression. I understand how all-consuming it could be, but I was amazed how depressed Ahmed Best was over Jar Jar because he was CGI. Like, I get Jake Lloyd going to school and people bullying him as a 10-year-old making lightsaber sounds and beating him up or whatever. Like that would suck. But Ahmed Best, I was like, he was already a great actor, dancer. He did stuff in Stomp. He was very talented. I was like, surely the audience wouldn't know who he was so much and wouldn't associate him with Jar Jar if he got other roles. So I was actually shocked when he was like, I want to take my life. Like, I don't want to take away from that. But I was like, really? Like, I
Well,
thought Hollywood would, like, it wouldn't even be a blip on his resume. They'd be like, oh, you were a CGI weird Rastafarian lizard.
I think that's the point. I'm going to look at Ahmed Best's perspective from an actor where he, like you said, he was on Broadway. He did like Stomp and things like that. And then when you go to be an actor on a big show, but it's not you as the actor, you're just obviously playing the puppet. You're playing Jar Jar, and people are going to relate your image to that when an actor's image is everything for them to get work in the future. So when he saw Jar Jar attacked, he goes, "Okay, cool. They're going to associate me with this CGI character." And then I'm going to go off and try and get work. I was in a big movie, but no one actually saw me actually work properly because they saw this CGI character. They didn't see me working. It's like similarly when he came back in the TV show and you saw him be a Jedi and he was actually acting himself. He probably loved that because he actually got to do his work a little bit.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Um,
It's like, trick this fuck.
yeah.
doo-doo-doo-doo.
So I think from him, like it wasn't just the fact that it was Jar Jar. I think it was all encompassing where he goes, my acting career was going well. I landed Star Wars, and then it just went to shit because people
Yeah,
are
right.
going to
Yeah, yeah,
associate
yeah.
him with that. So
Yeah,
I
I
don't
get
think,
that. I was amazed that Hollywood would have been so closed off because I would have just been like, yeah, I did Jar Jar or kept it off the resume. And, like if you already had that talent, it's like, who cares? It's a CGI character. So I guess that was how all encompassing Star Wars was at the time.
similarly to Andy Serkis though, like when Andy Serkis motion caps, like he does Smeagol, he does Snoke, and like like even for example, Benedict Cumberbatch when he did motion cap Smaug in The
That
Hobbit,
was scary
like
as shit, dude.
like like they were all really well received motion caps, where his was just like people used to follow him in the street and like yell at him and shit.
Yeah, okay. I get that.
Like
But I disavow it completely,
yeah,
obviously. I don't ever think you should attack an actor for a performance personally,
of course.
because the director and the whole system signed off and they said, cleared, great job, sent him home,
Yeah. No, I
Okay,
agree.
let's get to the second thing before no doom and gloom. This is actually, we're going to speak out both sides of our mouth here.
Hmm.
What do you want to talk about first? George Lucas and his Emperor, what Ian McDermott said, or Starfighter? Which one?
Let's go with Starfighter because there's a question about it.
Oh,
Why do they always pick the strangest shots of actors to put on their things?
probably gets good. I don't understand that. It's really hard to pick. When you see those thumbnails or articles where there's no text, it's just a dude's face. Like,
Does
it's
he have
almost
eyebrows?
like,
Matt Smith, I can't remember.
no, he doesn't. I was looking it up the other day. I was like, he looks so weird. And I was like, what's up with his head? And then I saw someone say online, he has no eyebrows. That's why, because he is captivating in House of the Dragon. I haven't even watched that show, but in the shorts, he's
He
great.
was a good doctor too. He was a good doctor.
Supposedly a great doctor, great actor.
Yeah.
He's like one of those people that you just want to look at on screen. Like you can't look away. And it could be the lack of eyebrows. And I'm not talking Morbius here, but he also was slated as a young Palpatine, remember? That was like a big thing people were pushing.
Mm-hmm. Also, the bloke who
Never-
played Loki. I think it was like either of those two they wanted.
Get Hiddleston out of here. I don't want to hear it. But
Yeah.
him in Starfighter, I've got to say, Mia Goth, I don't have any faith in Sean Levy directing, but the cast, Ryan Gosling, Mia Goth, Matt's like the cast is so out of control. Let's talk about the article, then we'll discuss. So Matt Smith praises Star Wars Starfighter team, plays coy about villainous role. Do you want to read, sir?
While prompting this weekend's premiere of House of the Dragon Season 3, Matt Smith chatted a bit with the Today Show about next year's Star Wars Starfighter. The actor played coy about his role in the film while praising the project overall. He also provided a small update on Starfighter's post production status. According to prior reports, Smith will play a villain in Starfighter alongside Mia Goth, who will hunt down Ryan Gosling and Flynn Gray's characters. However, Smith doesn't confirm his villainous status, simply saying, "Maybe I am," when asked. As the saying goes, no villain is a villain in their eyes. He goes on to hype the film, saying, "I think the film is going to be absolutely blinding. I think it's going to be brilliant. Truly. I was so excited and thrilled to be on it. Mia Goth, fantastic. Ryan Gosling is just a great leader. Sean Levy is a real top director. It was brilliant." Now, you mentioned you don't have any faith in Levy. What did he direct before that makes you not have faith?
Stranger Things, The Adam Project. Um, Strangely, Deadpool and Wolverine was good, but I felt like it was just fan service. Like I really liked it for the fan service. I like, as you know, more adult Star Wars shows. I believe that Star Wars should be made for adults first and foremost. And the trilogies kind of prove that, in my opinion. Whether you look at like Empire and you look at episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, they're the most adult and the most praised. I think that we treat children, especially Disney does, like kids instead of, let's say, smarter. Like it's not they treat them like kids, that they disrespect their intelligence and they make things that don't age that well. Like say the Skeleton Crew felt like a dumbed down version of the Goonies, but had a lot of potential with the cast. Like I genuinely was interested in Jude Law as Jod or whatever his name was. Like that. So when I see Levy, I'm just like, take the Chevy to the levee because it's dry. Like this dude sucks. He makes popcorn films. Star Wars always trying to cater to lowest common denominator. And I'm like, make something really hitting an adult. You know, I get that he's in the pocket here and that they want more generalized audiences, but I just don't. For me, this is not a dude who I want to see. He doesn't have the chops.
Fair. With this shot here of Starfighter, are those? Because I saw a few leaky leaks coming out, and is it true that he's ferrying Jedi to Rey? Are they going to go that, or is he in the future? Because when I look at that shot there, Gosling and that young person, they look related.
Isn't it his cousin, supposedly? I can't confirm a leak because I don't know if leaks are ever true. But look,
Oh,
if
he
they're
was a Star
setting that
Wars
up,
or something, right?
he had some lineage or whatever. He looks like Corin Horn to me, Gosling's character, so much. It makes me sad that he's not going to be a Jedi. I digress. I can so see them using this as a launch pad for Rey's trilogy, which makes me sad because, again, Luke's
They should just cut it. They should just stop it.
praxis.
Like it's not going to work.
Right. But like as a popcorn film, Levy can make something serviceable for kids. But long term, I don't think there's none of his films that you just want to go see that age really well. I just feel like Disney gets desperate. Every time they come up with something, they either cut it because they don't have faith in their own decisions, or they get desperate and greenlight something. Having said that, again, the cast, Mia Goth, oh my lord, Matt Smith, Gosling in Blade Runner. You cannot beat this cast. Like, if anything, this is the strongest cast I've ever seen them put into a film for Disney Star Wars outside of
Can I
Rogue
have a
One.
controversial opinion?
Oh fuck! You're gonna say you hate Gosling?
I don't hate Gosling. I just don't think Star Wars should have ever been filled with notable actors. It's very Lucas to like not have well-established actors. Like, you know what I mean? It sort of goes against him. Like Star Wars always gave new actors identities, and I think
Somebody get this bozo out of here.
they produce good performances. Like for example, like even like you know what I mean. Like Oscar Isaacs was good. You know, Adam Driver was good. Even Daisy Ridley had some good performances in it as well.
Driver was
Um,
seasoned with girls. Like so was Oscar Isaac. He'd been acting for like 10 years plus. Like they were up and come. I get what you're saying with the
they weren't
establishment.
A-listers though, right? Like,
Forrest Whitaker in Andor. Guerrero.
that's dude,
Unbeatable.
he was phenomenal as that. He was great.
Save
He
the
was great.
dream. Oh
But
my
Forrest
god.
Whitaker, but even Forrest Whitaker himself,
Donnie Yen.
you wouldn't classify him as an A-lister.
I don't know because I haven't seen it. And I agree with you. I don't need a cadre of great actors. I don't need like the Gladiator reboot and they got Denzel. I don't think that whole star power thing needs to carry, and I've never believed in it. I'm trying to think of what's an IP that they got unknown. You know what? The Night of Westeros, whatever. The Game of Thrones spin-off show where they had all unknowns and they rocked it out the park.
Sorry,
I love that.
honestly, Jedi Council. Sorry, but Liam Neeson maybe, but Ian McDermott and Alec Guinness. Alec Guinness, you know, obviously from the Bridge in the River Kwai, he won an Oscar for that. But like, I mean, Ian McDermott, he was a stage actor, and stage actors are good actors. Like, if you understand like the stage part of it, then perhaps. But we're still talking about like in 1996 when that started getting made. So, like, you know, would you argue that Samuel Jackson, Liam Neeson had the star power in the mid 90s,
Yes.
or did they have it
Liam
in the early
Neeson
2000s?
was
Early
huge.
2000s.
Liam Neeson had just come off Schindler's List. Rob Roy, which he'd done, which is basically Qui-Gon in parallels Rob Roy so much. Schindler's List was huge. Liam was a Dark Man, whatever. He was really thumping. He was ramping up so heavily. By the way, I saw this thing. Have you ever seen the movie Excalibur with Liam Neeson in it?
So, what was that movie again? I missed that.
Excalibur.
No, I haven't seen it.
Bro, I thought it was a fever dream, half of that movie. And then I like looked it up. I actually looked up the plot the other day because I'm like, there's no way. In that movie, it's like the King Arthur story. Liam Neeson's in it. A dude that's evil, basically, a bad king, goes to Merlin and says, I want to change faces with my enemy. The enemy dies, and the guy has his face for a night, goes and plows the mum. So imagine this dude kills your husband and he's plowing you for a night. And she loves it. And then that's how King Arthur is born. And I'm like, no, she's fully loves it in the movie. And I'm like, and while he's humping her, his face is changing back to his own, or like the dude he killed. You see the dude dying. And I'm like, the 70s and 80s, they made movies to mess you up. Like, I'm just like, what? Yeah. This is meant to be a King Arthur story, and he's like wearing the face of his enemy.
So Christopher Lee as well. But it's weird. Like, I understand that point. Like, yes, there were like pockets of them, but they weren't like the main characters. They were the supporting characters that really gave those main characters a really big boost. Like from looking, like, obviously, like, you had Alec Guinness supporting Mark Hamill. You had Liam Neeson supporting fucking what's his name again? Obi-Wan's name?
Alec Guinness?
No, the younger one. Fuck, what's his name? My
brain's blanking.
Ewan McGregor.
Also, he was Train Spotting. He was thumping in the 90s.
He was thumping.
His career. Like, I get what you're saying, and I personally agree. I would rather in the main role a non-A-list guy. I don't need, like, George tried to get Leonardo DiCaprio for young Anakin, and I think it would have changed his career, but also the tone of the films. I get that. I say surround the cast and have all the big boys, but also I'm not against it if Gosling is making it happen. But again, this is a very Sean Levy move. I feel like this is in the pocket. I'm amazed it's not Ryan Reynolds. Can you imagine Ryan Reynolds in a fucking Star Wars movie?
That'll be too hilarious. But I mean, do you find that
Horrible.
do you find that A-listers in main roles, like a franchise like Star Wars, would bring too many normies to it? Which goes to another point.
We
I
already
actually
got
want to
too
talk
many
about.
normies.
I actually want to talk about gatekeeping.
Gatekeeping. Mios
Remember we had
Dio.
remember when we had that conversation the other day? It's like,
I don't remember anything about that. I don't believe in gatekeeping, and I think everybody is welcome.
I think gatekeeping is healthy to a certain degree.
Yes. Unleash your hatred. Come on. Let's go, baby.
So, like, it was from that video. I'm not gonna name the YouTuber. But there's this philosophy around that, like, gatekeeping isn't necessarily the best thing. But I think there should be healthy levels of gatekeeping. If you know certain communities will come in and dilute themes and derail it, then I think there has to be a certain level of gatekeeping in certain things in a show to keep it for what it is. I don't believe that a show should evolve necessarily, or the crux or the storytelling of an IP should change with the times or shift towards certain political views. I think it should keep its essence. I like having fans, but I guess fans need to like what it already is established, not I want this inserted into it so then I can like it now. I think there's a difference. It's like if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I don't need you to bring your little shit into it for you to like it. Because if you don't like it from the start, fuck off. That's just me.
I
I want to hear
completely
from Josh.
disavow. I completely disavow everything that you've just said. Our friendship is over. If I knew that you were a bigot,
He's acting so well on the camera. He's just like, you racist bigot.
you right wing chud, I am disgusted.
Spoken like a true grifter.
The grift.
See, I like that.
The
Don't change
grift-
it because you don't feel it represents you. It was never about that. Yep, 100%. 100%.
When this show is done, we will get a new co-host. I'm looking forward to Darth Drop Bear replacing you. No, of course I believe that, dude. Like,
Yeah.
I love storytelling too much, and I love how scary it is. And I respect anybody who puts their nuts on the line like Lucas to make their vision come true, even if I find it completely off the wall. Like, it didn't land for me, like episode 2. I just didn't like it. Cool. But I know that he tried and he pushed the industry forward. Obviously, people who need check boxes ticked before they will see something are not a true fan, and they will leave as soon as said check boxes aren't ticked. Or if the check boxes are ticked, they will then demand double the check boxes the next movie, and it's an unwinnable battle. I think it's antithetical to creativity and to honest expression, and I want them out of the fandom. Having said that, when I say again, all fans are true fans, as long as you're being authentic, I don't see myself any better than a Disney fan. However, I think that's where the debate element comes in, where we should be able to say this sucks because of X or this is great because of Y, and then just argue those merits. I think that you are right, and it's been the most insidious and pernicious downfall of the fandom and franchise has been allowing those people a voice. And that perhaps this is in conjunction with social media, the advent of it becoming ubiquitous. And it's almost like, I remember in 2015, and I always bring this up, I read that millennials are more like 80% more likely or 60% more likely to spend money if there was a social cause attached to anything. And every single company who doesn't actually give a shit about anything but money attached said social causes to it as a shield. And obviously the fallout was horrendous. So, like, of course I agree with that. I think that we're in this barren wasteland of what you would call like it creatively bankrupt. Would you not agree?
They're creatively bankrupt because they're not aiming to be just creative. They're just like, how can I write this to appease X, Y, and Z? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or like, is it going to piss off this person, this person, this person? Who gives a fuck? Just write something that's good. Like, I mean, and like, you know, like to adversely of what I said before is I also like, I do actually disavow people, for example, that, you know, if they do see, for example, an IP writes a character that is, for example, a person of color or something like that, and then you get a lot of people saying that, oh, look, it's just representation, when the character would just happen to be written as like a person of color, for example, and they attack that character or they attack the IP for being woke. I think that's retarded and stupid. You know what I mean? Because if we're going to say that, then, you know, we wouldn't have wouldn't have a great character like Lando, for example. You know what I mean? Can you imagine, like, now when I do see a lot of characters that are written, and I do see sometimes a lot of unhealthy discourse on their race. And that's something I do see a lot, where they do inflate it, like they're just trying to say, "Oh, it's just representation now." Does that make sense
I don't
as
know.
well? Like,
I understand what you're saying. I
like,
think that George had the best. He had the best overview, which is like, I'll do minorities, but only one woman, one person of color. That's my cutoff. The galaxy. That's all we need, bro. That's what you get. No, I love Lando so much.
Actually, in Return of the Jedi, I was actually thinking this the other day. I was like, the pilots in the final fight against the Death Star, I'm pretty sure we saw a few more people of color and different genders in the starfighters, didn't we?
Not genders. There's only like one woman. But yeah, dude. Like, okay, Empire, there's a dude. Remember Woodrow, whatever his name is, Wilson. Yeah. I don't know. That's a US president. He was carrying an ice cream maker as he's running in the background. I think the homogeny.
I missed that.
Yeah, dude. He's a character.
What do you
he's
mean?
running
Like
through Cloud City. Yes. It looks like a space thing. So he was just like running. I think that it was more homogenous back then. You went to England and you said, I'm going to hire people. They're probably majority white. And so it was just representative of what was going on. I don't know. I don't think too heavily about it, but you know, also these brands have become so global. I get that it's natural for people to be all shades of the rainbow. It just shouldn't be a focus. It should just be merit based and blah blah fuckity blah. Yeah. Like, I don't want to think about it. I don't. You know, the biggest sin of Kenobi, as I say, was when I watched Reva when she was in the Jedi Temple flashbacks, and I saw Anakin slaughtering younglings, and instead of a rainbow coalition of aliens, they were all just humans of different colors, and I got so mad. I was like, that is so on the nose. So again, these conversations are so dull to me, I guess, because it's like a tit for tat. Disney does something whack like that, trying to get brownie points. The people they want to get brownie points with don't actually care about the franchise. They just say, we won't yell at you because you've ticked a box. And they're 5% screamers. People like us go, hey, we've noticed this thing and it doesn't seem genuine. And then they turn around and shield themselves and get that 5% of weirdos to scream and go, hey, you guys are horrible ists and phobes because you don't want more of that thing more than the story. And then the cycle continues. So I really hate it. It disturbs me. It is gross. I don't believe in it. I disavow it. I'm just like, make the best thing.
This is the right actor for the right character, right? And I think, you know, for example, if you're writing Lando, Billy D did the best Lando ever.
Oh my God.
Like, it's the best.
What have we here?
So good.
Do you know he got pissed? He got pissed at Donald Glover.
He did.
Happy. He was like, "You trying to act too black?" And I'm like, "That's so funny."
Yeah, he said Donald Glover was a good actor. He goes, but he tried to make it too Afrocentric when my character wasn't about that. I was just a smooth talker. He was just suave, and I was just like, just be an actor. I get what he's trying to say, but we do live in the political temperature these days is quite high.
I don't give a fuck anymore, dude. I don't care. I don't want to. I don't want to think about this. Like, the fact that we talk about it angers me because Disney stokes this fire and then they use it as a shield, or companies in general. And I don't care. I don't wake up and I go, you know what? Like, I hope that Donald Glover acts just the right amount of black. Actually, this is actually really funny. I got attacked for one thing. This is so funny. So do you remember Nick Gant? the character in
Mhm.
Return of the Jedi?
Yes.
That's fucked up. I love you. For those of you not in the know, Nick Gant was a background character who looked like one of the old clone troopers. And so someone posed to Dave Filoni, you should put Gant in a story and say one of the clones survived. People lost their minds because Gant happened to be a few shades too light for Tamira Morrison when older, which he could have been stuck in a lab for 20 years. He could have just not been as tanned. He could have had a pigment change. If they could make an
A lab.
Omega, I don't
Could have
know.
been a
You know,
Bacta tank.
he could have been in you want to share my Bacta tank? Get in. He could have been in a fucking prison cell. Who knows? Who cares? But the people that were arguing that, who I was friends
Yeah.
with, and they were like, you need to check your privilege. That was when I was like, something is terribly wrong with
Oh,
his
I'd
fandom.
delete them straight away if anyone fucking
No,
said
no,
that.
these people
Fuck
that
them.
I spoke to that I liked, and I was
Yeah.
like, you're not actually my friend. If you care about this more than our friendship or more than good storytelling, something's broken. And of course, because I'm one of those people that carry guilt too much or question myself, I don't just say everybody's fucking stupid but me. I take a step back and go, am I wrong? Like, I will do an evaluation, a diagnostic. I would be like a fucking 3PO shut down. And I came back and I was like,
Do you know?
they're
just to
whack.
quickly, to lighten the mood a little bit, because we obviously had a bit of a political.
No. We're about to talk about Hitler in a second, but please go ahead.
Whoa! But I was actually going to
Palpatine
say,
Hitler.
do you know what would be a fantastic marketing idea?
Let's go.
Boba's Bacta bath bubbles. Like you could get a
Oh
little
my
jar, and you like essence of Boba, and it's just got Tamora Morrison. Just like, I'd buy it. I'd
And
have
he's
Bacta
got
bubbles
Wookiee
with
fur
Boba.
stuck on him.
Yeah, Bacta bubbles with Boba.
He
$1 billion
hadn't
idea.
washed it out. $1 billion idea.
100%.
I love it.
He hadn't washed it out.
He hadn't cleaned out the filter and it's still got the Wookiee fur.
Fuck, man.
All right,
It's like, you know, it's sorry, God, we're still going to deviate.
No.
Oh, mine's
This is,
sticking.
yeah, this is the Hitler talk, which is I saw this and I was like, whoa. And it's not why you think. So George Lucas planned a Star Wars television series starring Emperor Palpatine, but it never happened. And Ian McDermott had reported on this recently, saying,
Is it true though?
"Oh, well, in
Do you reckon there's
2012, here, because I don't want to, I hate how they buffer out the articles. It's like trying to find a fucking recipe online and they talk about how their grandmother first moved from Mexico to make the quesadilla. And you're just like, show me the queso.
It's so true. They have to give you the fucking background of their like person.
Oh, it's such a sin. George, and I know it's just for more ads. George Lucas was talking, and I think I can tell you now, a television series. Ian McDermott told the audience at a panel at SpaceCon 2026. At the time, we didn't think Star Wars in terms of television series, very speculative. One day during lunch, he said, I've got this idea and I hope that you want to be involved. We could sort of follow the Emperor's progress like Hitler's. Some of that. There might be an assassination attempt, and of course, it won't succeed. It really sounded exciting. And also, he said that maybe you could direct one, and then I fainted, but sadly, it didn't come to pass. And it's unclear if McDermott was talking about Star Wars Underworld. Can I say just one thing before we start talking about this?
Yeah.
I was like, didn't the prequels show Palpatine's rise, kind of like Hitler? Like what?
Not that well. Not that well.
I know. Look, I've read the Plagueis novel. I know how layered it could be, but I was just like, that's such an interesting idea and perspective. But also then when I thought of the parallels of Hitler's rise, I actually was like, this is like Palpatine and Hitler actually really had do you believe that they had parallels?
100%.
Not in the way that you think. In the rise.
Honestly, I think if I were to look at a character, Lord Voldemort from Harry Potter is a lot more allegorically tied to the rise of fascism in Germany and the world. For example, the Death Eaters, they were exactly like the SS Death Squads, going around finding mudbloods, and getting them and all that kind of stuff, putting them into camps. that was a lot more politically ideologically tied to that. But watching Dooku behind the scenes, like find Maul, the clones, start getting Dooku, um, assassinating Sifo Dyas, and that whole story between him and Plagueis, that would have been that mentorship from Plagueis to him would have been so interesting to see, like more so than tying it to Hitler. But like I think what he was just trying to say is just like, oh, just like a tyrant came to power, Palpatine came to power. I think that's where Lucas was tying it, but not so much like narratively similarly to Hitler
No, 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 no,
himself.
no. I know, and it sounds very heavy-handed until you read history and you realize the nuance of, I guess, to summarize, and everybody correct me if I'm wrong, but Hitler actually functionally made a lot of sense at the start because of World War One. World War One, Germany lost, and there was so many sanctions that the German people could, like, they spent, Deutschmarks were worth nothing. They couldn't have like food or anything. They were done into the dust. Like
They
the
were
free
in
world,
economic austerity, yeah.
they're basically like, they were like, we are slaves to the greater world, and people, they were like, screw you. The Allies were like, screw you. You've done this to yourself. And then if you get a generation past and kids who have done nothing see like just how poor you are, and they don't see the war or what happened, and then suddenly this bro comes along and he takes you into economic freedom, he has somebody to blame, and then he's like, all I need is emergency powers and I will bring us to glory. I think that rise with Palpatine is definitely in step, because it makes sense why Palpatine was voted in when he was like, we need to end this war. But obviously he was orchestrating it. So again, these are
Yeah.
broad strokes, and it's not like I'm frothing either of them, though Palpatine did nothing wrong. If it came to the EU actually made him do nothing wrong. But this is where it's exciting. Do you know the plot of Star Wars Underworld with Hitler with Palpatine?
No.
Supposedly, now, let me preface this because I get too excited.
Those damn trad roots.
In the EU, and I hope we can talk about this stuff as adults and respectfully, and realize that this doesn't mean that we're advocating. Anyway, but I'm going to advocate for Palpy. In the EU, they wrote later, famously, that the Yuuzhan Vong, who destroyed Coruscant, basically, who took over the galaxy because they couldn't be felt in the Force, and they were this pain-loving race. The reason why Palpatine built the Death Star, etc., was because he knew the EU. He knew that the Yuuzhan Vong, these aliens, these pain-loving freaks, were stronger than the Jedi. So everybody combined, and he had to set up fail-safes. He needed Death Stars. He needed to get everybody in order for the greater threat, which oddly is very Yoda-like. Yoda says to Luke, if you save your friends, more people can be hurt. Like, you got to break a couple of omelets to make a good egg. Palpatine, oddly, was the most Jedi in the fact he was like, you guys are going to hate this. We need order. We need strength. The Jedi suck. If I can manipulate them, then the galaxy's fucked. And the galaxy did get fucked by the Yuuzhan Vong. Like, they barely made it out. And it arguably did more damage than, say, if Palpatine was in power, though obviously it would suck being in servitude, to the Emperor and his cronies. But I digress. So that was the EU logic.
One or another.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
like, would he have done less damage? Probably. Was it worse that he died in the EU? Probably. In some way, it makes you think. Okay. Some people hate it. They just want to see him as Satan, like, George uses that allegory. But in the underworld, remember how I said Star Wars is for adults? I believe that George, when he got merchandising rights in the 80s, he was lured by the dark side of, let's make Star Wars more for kids. It started with the Ewoks, then Jar Jar, and he made it more kiddie. And he finally gave up and said, you know what, episode 3, which is peak prequels. I think that he finally gave up. And this is why. I know you say Clone Wars, but there was mature themes in war there. But Star Wars Underworld was supposedly like the Sopranos of Star Wars. He wanted full adult peak TV show. Now, this is where it's exciting. He did something similar with Palpatine, reportedly. Someone wrote, one of his producers said that they cried when they read the script, and Palpatine was positioned to have come to power and done all this evil shit because a woman, there's some supposedly like a bounty hunter or some evil woman that like basically just stepped on his nuts repeatedly, and he was like, that's it, I'm taking over the galaxy. Like, can you believe like a woman made Palpatine so like fucked up?
Yeah, no, I'd hate that.
What if it was really
Oh.
good though? What if it was really? I wouldn't. I don't think I'd like it. The Vong
No.
thing was okay to me, but can you imagine Palpatine getting absolutely scorched by some woman?
It'd be too poetic to Anakin basically being the biggest simp of the galaxy and committing genocide over pussy. You know what I mean? Like, it's just too much. Like,
Committing genocide over pussy. You, sir, are a poet.
Vader did. But also, Daranaku, yeah, we all get that Hitler was an Austrian born. We get it. You don't have
What
to
did
keep
I
saying
say?
it in the chat, brother.
What did I say?
He just wants to keep making the point that Adolf Hitler was a Austrian born.
Oh, what does that have to do?
I don't know. He just keeps spamming in the chat. We get it. Not sure. Not sure.
Oh, maybe he's saying it's strange that he was trying to uplift Germany when he was Austrian born. Who knows?
He fought for Germany. He's the German. Do you know what's an interesting fact? Like, if you were bringing the parallels to, if you try, like, just back when you're saying like trying to relate him to Hitler, it was funny though because the motives were different. Where Adolf in his early years was actually, after the First World War, he actually became an intelligence operative for the German government. And he actually got radicalized infiltrating the far right groups in Germany, which is really interesting. He actually went to their rallies to document what they were talking about, what they were doing and organizing. And during those times, he actually went, they make sense. And they corrupted him. He corrupted himself. And then he was just like, actually, I'm going to switch sides and actually uplift these people. It's really, really interesting history about him. So, like, from them, motive would be different, right? Because I think Palpatine, being a Sith, his motive was always to overthrow the Master and bring in Plagueis's plan for the galaxy. It wasn't even Palpatine's; it was Plagueis's. He just,
Well,
I mean,
he
Palpatine's
corrupted
next
it.
to
He
him.
perverted the rule of two, so he just wanted absolute power.
Did he pervert
He
the
was
rule of two though?
Yeah, that's why all the
Well, if
Sith
you-
Lords hated him. They hated him because he didn't train Vader to succeed him. He wanted to basically just rule forever and keep the status quo. He was a dog. They disliked him. The other Sith Lords, I can't remember where it was. Somebody in chat, if you remember, like he was a corrupter of the rule of two. He was bad. Bad.
But wasn't
Sith.
that after Vader, like, obviously became a burnt shish kebab? Like, because if you remember the fight with Yoda, he goes, "You cannot stop me. Vader will become more powerful than either of us." And then obviously when he was in the Darth Vader suit, he's just like, "You suck. You're gonna be my bitch now."
Could do. The Plagueis novel kind of posits him as pretty arrogant and self-obsessed. I feel like maybe he was taunting Yoda. Maybe he could have just been like, you know what? If I die, I'm still getting my way. Who knows? Like, saying something to your enemy versus your internal dialogue or monologue would be a lot different. I find it very interesting though, the fact that George, like, the only time I found a political allegory that was on the nose in George's Star Wars was when fuck the Ewoks, dude. I want to punt those little bastards. No, it was when Palpatine took office and he stood up and everybody clapped, which was directly like, if you watch the parallel of that with George Bush was doing all his shit back in the day unopposed because of I don't want to have to say, why don't I want to say 9/11? But you know what I mean, when he got unmitigated power. But there was like there was a parallel. That was the only time where I went, huh, he's lifted that from the speech from Bush, right? Like it literally looks the same with people's, and obviously George has gone on record saying he's a hardcore liberal. So like I get it, but like to your point earlier, I like when the messaging is so subtle. I can't. You will argue, did he actually write it about the Vietnam War? You know what I mean? I don't want to. Disney is so heavy-handed. I feel like they just get a mallet and go clunk. Like
That's the
and it's
difference.
always the same
Yeah.
message, and it's always
Yeah.
the same sliver of political viewpoint when clearly like everything's so America centric. It's half of their audience doesn't vote or doesn't have the same belief system. So it makes no sense to me why you would hit somebody over the head with something and say the opposite is evil compared to how George portrayed the story. I get like I would say Return of the Jedi with your Ewok loving, the allegory that the motif was science versus nature. You know, a military force versus nature. So the Ewoks are natural and by all accounts shouldn't stand up to a military force like the Stormtrooper battalion, but they do because nature wins. And like that motif, you know what I mean? It's not
It could also be an allegory to the Zulu Wars of the English, where you basically had like a tribe with spears fighting in the English with muskets and artillery and things like that as well, like the Zulu War.
I don't know. I don't want to talk about natives or animals and wars because everybody always brings up us losing to emus. And I'm
Yeah, we did. We lost to emus. We sucked.
nature wins. I get it. You know what I mean? But like I can handle those thematically. I feel
Yeah.
like the best type of media talks not directly to you, but like to your subconscious. Would you agree with that? Like it speaks to you, but like there is
It does.
these
But
timeless things.
you're right with Disney. They hit it. They hit you on the head with it so hard that it makes the villains like it just like you said, it makes you apathetic because you know what they're talking about. Like a well-written villain is someone that makes you think of their motives and you go, "Ooh, is he like I see their point." Like they did that with the Clone Wars and they tried to make the Jedi like, they're the reason everything went to shit. They became servants of the governments rather than the citizens. And like, you look at a villain written like the Joker, and you look at one like Thanos. Where with Thanos, he made you
Did
think.
you say Thanos?
Thanos, sorry, I was
Name is
becoming
Thanos.
Thanos. Like he actually really like you could almost sympathize with Thanos with his viewpoints, right? He made you
Right.
think. And that's where villains are written well, not just this like, you see that person, he's a fascist. Bad. And it's just like we get fascists are bad. But like give them a bit more depth. Like you know what I'm trying to say? Like you said, when Anakin walked in and you just saw a white person slaughtering a bunch of, people of color in the Kenobi show.
I never said that.
Well, that's well, that was on the nose, right? But that's literally what it saw. Like you just saw that, and you just kind of
No,
like,
but that's what they write down. That's the weird
Yeah.
part is like there is no depth to that. Yeah. And it's so strange to me because I just can't imagine working on the greatest IP arguably in all history and reducing it to something so banal and basic and it's always the same thing ad nauseum where you're just like, holy hell. Like I hate to say this though. I've got to disagree. My favorite villains are the ones that are multifaceted and not one dimensional. But I would say that Palpatine outside of the EU or Underworld supposedly was very much like an allegory, maybe as you'd say, for Satan. I didn't see any type of redeeming qualities. He was just bad.
he was just bad. Like obviously, like if you're tying into saying like you had the temptation with Anakin with the scene where he's, did you ever hear of the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise? And then obviously he finally revealed himself to be who he was. But even when he revealed himself, he's just like, for one to be truly wise and knowledgeable, you must study all aspects of the Force, not just the narrow dogmatic.
Yeah,
view
but
of
what
the Jedi.
what's the aspect of Palpy that was you could relate to him and say, you know what? I get why you're doing what you're doing.
Because I think with Palpatine, he was smarter than the entire Jedi Order because to defeat your enemy, you must know your enemy. And the Jedi really didn't want to know anything about the Sith. They didn't want to understand it. They didn't want to put themselves in their shoes, understand their perspective, so that they could work against it, so they can never come to power. Like, they knew that they worked in the shadows. Then obviously, let's look in the shadows. Let's look internally. Let's look behind the scenes. They weren't smart. They were so uppity, and they didn't really want to. They thought they were the best, where the other side studied them more. I think there was a lack of knowledge in that part of it, right? It's just like one forbade the knowledge, even to understand your enemy. The other one, the enemy actually studied you, understood you, and dismantled you within. One was smarter at that period of history.
Do you think, I was going to ask a scale of 1 to 10, did you find Palpatine's being enamored with Anakin 50% too homoerotic?
You know what? He had a power kink. He's so powerful.
No, when he dropped to his knees and he's like Darth Vader and he's like, good. I was like, bro.
He had a power hard on. Yeah, he's just like,
his head's not the only testicle that you're going to see today, Anakin. Like, I'm sorry, Anakin. Even Obi-Wan and Anakin's bromance, like, I don't know, there was just something where I was like, this is
120%.
I wouldn't want to be alone with bro, like I'd want security cameras up, and like, can you imagine crawling around with no limbs? And he's like, come back, honey. He's just wearing a Padme wig. You know what I'm talking about? It just,
you ruined our BDSM session. I can't tie you up. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. There was like I know what Lucas was going for, but Lucas was a little heavy-handed in the prequels himself, not in political spectrum too much, but more just his writing and stuff. And I know what he was going for. I'm a defender of that I hate sand thing. I really am. That's the only thing I defend. I fucking hate it, dude. You ever go to the beach and it's just, who wants it up their ass crack? I think, I'm going to say something that's going to be in trouble, and I'm going to try and say it in a PG way. I think God, I'm not a woman with more orifices at the beach.
No one likes a sandy snatch. It's true.
Bro, when I was 16, me and my friend saw this really cute girl, and she was there with her dad, and he wandered off, and we were like, we're going to walk up to her. And she plonked herself down in the ocean, spread-legged, like welcoming the ocean to her. And we just were like, no, she's got a sandy vagina. This is not a good day. Like, why would you ever welcome that into your life? I hope she has a detachable shower head.
So you went to go talk to a girl and you stopped because she spread eagle and to freshen up.
No, we stopped because we were bitches, but we can still make fun of her because she was sanded up. I don't know. Look, this is a very human thing. I hate sand. It's coarse, it's rough, it gets everywhere. When Anakin said that, I was like, yeah, dude, I've never related more in my life. So when people were like, this is clunky dialogue, I'm like, for what? Who likes sand in their bush?
But the sand line, I don't understand people dog it. I'm like, it makes so much sense. Like,
I think having Hayden hold back, and it sounded like he had to strain out a shit. So I want more, and I was like, oh, like he was very wooden. He gave less because George told him to. It just, with that dialogue, it just didn't flow. I saw the other day Carrie Fisher, and she had crossed out. Did you see it on Twitter where she crossed out a bunch of stuff on the script for the original? I think it was Empire, and made it less clunky, more flowy. I don't think that he gave the actors the ability to do so in the prequels, and it shows.
Yeah, I think you could say that. What do we know what Carrie Fisher crossed out?
Oh, there was like superfluous lines, and she just streamlined it and like made it how people talk. I can't remember completely, and I'll spend 5 minutes scrolling, but it was like it made sense to me. I was like, man, show versus tell. She was just like, if you can say it in 2 words, don't use 12 kind of thing.
And that actually reminds me of Harrison when he goes to Mark Hamill is just like, you can read this shit, kid, but you can't say it.
I'm amazed that they can like, okay, I have a perceptual knowledge of the Star Wars universe. So like when he's like, we got to go through the port to Ord Mantell or whatever, I'm like, Ord Mantell, I've been there because of SWTOR. I know exactly what that planet looks like, blah, blah, blah. Ord Mantell is a fucking word. You'd be like, Ord Mantell? George, is this Ord Mantell or Ordo Mental or Ord Mantell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, you just be like, how do I say this? The fact that George can, they took every single word and line throwaway from the OT and made EU shit, or even not even EU, just even the prequels from that. It branched out like, I knew your father in the Clone Wars fucking TV series. Like, whoa, all he said was the Clone Wars and this shit. I know that he did well, but this is why George's world building is next level. It's like, how does he come up with this? Okay. Diablo, and I'm going to cross-reference to Star Wars, is a series that I really love, Diablo 1 and 2, but its wording conventions don't stick for me. And I really don't like when that happens. Like it says, you know, Kyrgyzstan or Tristram's okay, but like these names of places that don't feel real, but then every single planet, every single character that George came up with feels right. Like it feels like it's really a part of Galaxy, like Ord Mantell. Okay, cool. Devaronian. Absolutely. Yep. Garnd. Like Tatooine, Anchorhead, like Luke Skywalker, Luke, for fuck's sake, like Han Solo, Leia. How does he do? How many is he a polyglot? How many languages are well read is this dude that he's come up with all these words? Shit, Obi-Wan Kenobi, the most Japanese fucking sounding name.
I guess when you read like all those mythology books that he probably went into, you probably can have like a knack for sort of deriving names and matching them with like a world building. I think that's probably where he got his talents from. It's actually really funny though that you say that, because I watched like a lot of the behind the scenes of like when the prequels were being made, and even though he wrote some of the names like Dooku, you see him on pronouncing like Doku and things like that.
Oh, I love that.
And he does like 12
when he does
times.
That.
Like,
he rage baits it. He's like Gungan or whatever, and you're like, Gungan? Laser sword, he refuses to say lightsaber, and you're just like, you're doing this on purpose. You're fucking with us. Coruscant before episode 1 came out was pronounced in media like the audiobooks as Coruscant.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure he said that himself. And I'm like, you're fucking with us at this point. You don't care. And the thing that gets me the most is do you remember the original title for A New Hope?
Isn't this Tales of like Luke Starkiller?
No, it's like Tales of like Luke Starkiller and Mace Windu, who went to Walmart to buy himself a novel, which was The Journey of the Whills. And you're like, what the fuck? All of those words broken up actually mean shit, bar the Walmart. But you do that.
Yeah.
You sound insane if you said that to someone in the street. Do you want to watch this? I'd be like, fuck no, dude.
Oh, that's right.
I'm wrong.
It's like taken by the journals of the Whills and things like that. Yeah.
And then they became the Whills, and like every single thing clumped together sometimes doesn't make sense, but like just chiseled away and then repurposed. This guy's a fucking world building genius.
What was then like? Remember how he said he wanted to explore the Force to the biomolecular level? Do you remember what that was about? He said like the next installment of his trilogy would have really drilled down into the Force. Was he going into its origins, or?
I don't know. I've never heard of that. I would say midichlorians, but again, Plagueis did that so well. People hate midichlorians. After Plagueis novel, I love them.
Yeah.
I'm like, if it's a power cell inside our cells, I get it. What I don't like is that everybody's innately Force sensitive and could become a Jedi. I did like in the EU. In the EU, you were either you had it or you had it partially. Yeah. Like Obi-Wan nearly went into the Agri Corps because he just didn't have the juice. I love that. Like, can you imagine? He's like the opposite of Anakin's like the chosen one, whereas Obi-Wan, Yoda was probably looking at him and he's going, send him to do
It's
some
weird.
gardening.
It's weird though, because like even Obi-Wan's story flip-flops, because I've got like an Obi-Wan novel when he was an apprentice, and it didn't say anything about him sucking. He actually got kicked out due to an altercation that he was too aggressive.
That makes sense. I don't know why I've banked the Agricor thing. I think it's
Yeah.
because I was always amazed that he could go toe to toe with Anakin at the end of episode 3, just
Yeah.
due to almost like wisdom versus raw power. Like oh, by the way, and this is great, goes to Pod Person. Shout out to Pod Person. He's a great Aussie streamer.
G'day,
That's
mate.
yeah, I know. He's got the scary, what is that? Donald Sutherland. It's from a horror movie from the 70s picture that it's just creepy as fuck. He said, I've said it before, I'll say it again. The whole show versus tell is so blatantly lacking across all Disney properties, most notably Star Wars in the last 2 seasons of Doctor Who. I don't know anything about Doctor Who, but I will say to that point, I rewatched the Kenobi fight versus the 40-year-old Anakin on the Kenobi show the other day. Remember when they sparred?
Yeah.
The amount, it was 2/3 too much dialogue, and it was so on the nose. You know, Lucas probably would have been like, your aggression betrays you, Anakin. He was saying it every 3 seconds. You think you have me, Anakin. But now I'm like, are you sparring or are you just having a fucking D&M?
Yeah, that's more like what the Sith do. The Sith try and like shit talk each other to like
No,
make
Don
more
Mock. I
violence
get
and
that,
stuff.
but I'm saying
Yeah.
that like Disney don't trust the audience to be smart enough to understand the subtext or
Yeah.
undertones, and they just go fucking die.
I think
idiot.
that's the thing is, like you said before, they insult the intelligence of fans with their shit
Yes.
dialogue. And yeah, it's just annoying.
It's just
Doesn't
it's
flow.
amazing to me. Yeah, it just doesn't. It's like there is so much more to people. Like I said, I genuinely believe that there are 2 movies happening at once. There is what's happening in the corporeal realm and ethereal, conscious and subconscious. That's actually way more apt. And that good movies speak so heavily to your subconscious, it's not funny. I feel like everything Disney's above the surface. And if there are undertones, you could just see them a mile away. They think that they've got an iceberg, but it's just fucking just all in front of you.
Did
and
you
you're
feel
just
that
like,
in Maul?
I felt
So
that
I didn't.
Maul was really good at a lot of things, but I didn't, again, because I'm an EU Maul lover and I loved him. I think he should have died. I did not like when they tried to portray him as a sympathetic villain, which Disney always tries to make the villains the good guys or the good guys villains and morally great. Like, I'll give you an example, and I think you know this. When Maul was crying because Palpatine zapped him with lightning, I disavowed that straight away because
In the Clone Wars?
No, in Maul, Shadow Lord, when he had the flashbacks.
Okay.
Maul should have known better. And what I mean by that is when you play KOTOR and Darth Malak captures Bastila and he tortures her with lightning, similarly, and she's like, torture Malak, I'll never break. And he's like, torture? This is to whet your appetite. This is the power of the dark side. Palpatine was showing a young Maul the power of the dark side. As a child, that would give you PTSD, nightmares, exactly what we saw. But an adult Maul would have known 100% that was just to show him the raw power. So to make him sympathetic in that level did not connect with me because I'm like, as a Sith or even a Sith trainee, how he treated his brother Savat, like, remember when Dooku was zapping him and he was making him?
I was just about to say, because they did that well with Dooku and Savage, where he's like, lift them. And he fucks him off until he does it.
That pains the teacher, but they wanted him to be sympathetic. And I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, this was to get the attention of the female viewer where they had the sympathy level for the bad boy, because there is a lot of bad boy element for Maul. And I think that's where you come into conflict.
They're appealing to the book talk crowd a little bit too much. like they did with
Yeah,
the
yeah, yeah,
Acolyte.
exactly. And
Yeah.
again, Disney tries to
Yeah.
appeal to too broad an audience. I am a purist. I think Star Wars is for the bros. I think it should be made for adults, and everybody's welcome to enjoy it. But I think anything you make should have a core audience in mind, and it should be, generally speaking, it should be for the person who's making it. So if the person is like, this is what resonates to me, I really want to tell the story for an 18-year-old me, or you know what I mean? Like, just make it for that. Don't be like, but I got to get the book talkers, and I got to get the merch, and I got to tick the bot. I feel like that's where you fall off. Like,
Corporation
it doesn't
mentality,
just
isn't it?
it doesn't have to be gender based, but at the same
Yeah.
time, like when I make videos, or I'm sure when you stream, you're trying to stream to friends, and as a 37-year-old Italian Australian man,
Yeah.
you're not thinking that some little girl from Guam is going to be watching this on a phone. Like, you're not speaking to them. You're speaking to the probably bros, or you've got, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like you're saying go away to everybody, but you're essentially just forming bonds, and you will
Yeah.
naturally see the target audience.
Yeah, no. And like even if I've met people outside of my stream from my stream, like I like to say, like, I'm not a different person. I am who I am is what you see. So like I don't like to change. I don't like to put on a persona or a character. Like obviously, like when I run my stream, like I do. How do you put it? You don't fully open up because obviously then you would get banned with the platform.
Well, here's me.
Yeah, as we talk with the bros. But like, yeah, like when I look at like analytics, like obviously you do find the bulk audience is obviously going to be bros, but then you have people from outside your core audience that do enjoy you because they think you're funny, they like your gameplay or whatnot. And I think similarly, like I said before, that's how a franchise should be. Like you said, you have your core audience, you please them, and if outsiders see it and they like and they resonate it, then they become fans.
God bless.
You
Yeah,
don't-
you're not like go
yeah.
F off to them. You're not like, how dare
No.
you? Like that gatekeeping doesn't make sense to me. But if you try and
Yeah.
please anybody
Yeah.
too broadly, you're done. You're cooked. It is, unless you're the 0.001% of the greatest ever. Like, let's say Star Wars. I think the reason, like we always go back to, is Star Wars the OT. They treated kids like adults in the 70s. Therefore, the franchise was made basically for adults, and it transcends time to the point where adults still enjoy it. I genuinely believe that. And it became something much bigger. They didn't try and infantilize. That's actually probably the wrong pronunciation, but you know what I mean? Whereas Disney, like you said, they try and go broad and low and superficial and tick boxes and be political. And you just like, who it feels like a focus group has, and they, they have, Kathy Kennedy's brought in a focus group. And then when the focus group is done and Kathy's done it, or whomever, then they go, how does Twitter feel about this? Can we protect ourselves from the Twitterverse or whoever's screeching at the time? And
well,
then
it's like you said, Reddit and Battlefront. Like,
Reddit
the
ruined
Discord,
Battlefront.
those neck mids would come up and be like, "Oh, Reddit won't like this." I'd be like, "Fuck you and Reddit. I don't give a shit." Like, seriously. Sorry if there's any Redditors out there, but y'all smell.
Dang. Yeah, I never got Reddit. It just, when I had to do it for work, I think I told you this one time back when I was working for Curse, and there was a dude huge on Reddit, and I said, how do I navigate this? Because people are really mean. And he literally said to me, Reddit is assholes. There are assholes that like Pokemon. There are assholes that like this and that. And they're all like, he just was teaching me about varying degrees of assholes. And my eyes kind of rolled in my head because I understood the meaning. But I also was like, why would I want to engage with people who have these fiefdoms, who then get this unmitigated, disproportionate amount of power over, say, like Battlefield Front, sorry, and like whatever franchise, and then they just go and assert themselves, and like, I think the internet, the advent of social media has been so deleterious. I can't think of another one. I've used pernicious and insidious, bad, gradually over time. That's what they mean.
Detrimental. It's been
detrimental. That's what I was like. Deleterious means bad over time, but detrimental to creativity as a whole, especially in media. It is gutted if you allow it. And I think that's why these newer pieces of media that are peeking out like Obsession or whatever, because they're kind of the dude who did it was already a YouTuber and he kind of knows the audience, but he also, I feel like they disavow it a lot. They just make it for themselves. And that is, again, creativity is like coming back. It's like cyclical. I genuinely hope, like you said, with Kathleen Kennedy gone, I wish Disney would sell Star Wars, but if they don't, I hope that media in general, people are going to listen to their gut, not the broader audience. But to that point, George wasn't immune. Remember when he changed the prequels because of the shit that he was getting? Imagine if social media was out, how much that would have fucked that dude. He wouldn't have been able to sleep if he saw the onslaught.
I don't like to I don't want to think about it. It'll be but like, it depends. It's like social media at what point in the Star Wars timeline? Social media for The Force Awakens was pretty positive. As soon as The Last Jedi hit, it was a fucking shit storm. And everything after that was a shit storm. So like, I mean, I get what you're saying 100%, but it's just like, it depends like what happens on an IP. Does that stoke the fires of the shitstorm? But I actually want to ask you a question. Like, you said you want Disney to sell Star Wars. Now, I have my own opinions on good old Elon Musk.
Oh.
Imagine if someone like Elon, who was just a random billionaire dude, not tied to like, a media corporation, for example, even though he has Twitter. Like, would you want someone like Elon to buy it just so he has, for example, when he bought Twitter, he's just like, it's too political on one side. It needs to be an open forum of discussion, whether you like what's being discussed or not. Very Voltaire sort of like way. He's just like, I detest what you have to say, but I defend your right to say it sort of attitude. Would you want Star Wars to be owned by someone like that?
Yeah, look, Elon's probably not the best example because he's got a rage boner for AI. And he's also very wishy-washy. I don't know. I don't like, I respect what he's done and what he's built, but also creatively, I don't think that he's the most switched on. Like, everybody has their weaknesses. And do I like that he bought Twitter and stopped he made it more free speechy, not the CIA or whoever was. Remember when they were like they literally were working in cahoots and like stopping, say, Hunter Biden's laptop, all that crap. I love free speech. So I was like, okay, someone like that who's into free speech. But Elon, I think, probably pushes his own. See, the problem is that we're talking about politics, and I don't want somebody who has a political agenda to then go, all right, it's been left-wing storytelling ad nauseum, and if you don't checklist, you're bad. Let's do the opposite, right-wing storytelling. Like, I don't need either of that. I just want creativity. And I feel like Elon, if he genuinely gave people across the board that are artists, which are generally left-leaning anyway, the ability to tell stories, the tools, absolutely. But he like AI, and he would probably go right-wing and like, I don't need any of that anymore. Like, I'm so sick of politics permeating every facet of life. I go to media to get my mind off these things. Fantasy, like, I don't need that. And so, but to your point,
I meant more like an open form of storytelling, like not
Yes,
Elon himself,
yes.
that he would use it as a weapon for his own.
Okay, I apologize.
But like I'm going to buy it so it can go back to pure storytelling without, having leaning one way or having checkboxes. Like, just create stories.
Yeah, of course, dude. Yeah. I tell you that the greatest era for me in Star Wars was literally that guy. I forget his name always when I need to know it, from like 2000 to 2005, that ran the games arm, that just said, anybody who's an artist, we will give you the license for the games. And we got the KOTORs, the Battlefronts, every which way of game possible. And it was all of the classics, the golden era, because this guy said, I will give you the IP. But again, my philosophy is, people see George Lucas as God and they want George's Star Wars back. I've always liked the EU more than the movies, and I trade them. I prefer to see the Rembrandts, the Van Goghs, the Michelangelos painting in his world. His world building second to none. So give artists the ability to show their interpretation of that world while staying within certain guidelines, as we've discussed. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But the last thing I want to talk, can you imagine if we never had these discussions again? It was just on the merits of this is great, this is bad, I didn't like this, or thematically this Star Wars movie didn't work, but we've got 10 others this year. Not political, audience is dumb, Star Wars fatigue's real, all the bullshit. You know what I mean? Like I don't want to think about any of that stuff anymore, dude.
No,
I'm
no,
done.
100%. It's become exhausting. But to that point, like, would you then say, should Star Wars revert back to being a generational episodic saga? Like movie-wise, should it be a generational episodic saga? Rather than having been bombarded with like movies, like should we then have episodic generational movies and then have the expanded universe like novels, an animation here and there, and then like maybe an anthology film, but like make it so it's not so condensed. So like what I wouldn't want is the audience to have an expectation that there is going to be a Star Wars movie every year. For me,
Right.
if it's that much, it'll dilute it.
I would agree in the first part and say that if you wanted to do Star Wars right, let's pretend Disney sold and they rebooted, even though, rest in peace, Carrie Fisher and stuff, that it'd be really difficult. I genuinely believe that to tick all boxes, we have to go back to the George version where we have trilogies. It could be Old Republic, it could be New Republic, and have them as the literal pillars. And then the EU content can branch out around said pillars. But if you've got a Star Wars movie coming out every 2 years, and there's a trilogy for the Old Republic, there's a trilogy for the New Republic for the next 20 years, and then they laid in however many movies or TV series around that, I think you tentpole hard against the through line of the thing that brings people to their theaters, that keeps them guessing for the next installment, and that are really the pillar. And then everything, the ancillary content, is just what people like you and I sink our teeth into, where we just are like, we got the games, we got the movies, the novels, the comics, and they all help raise. I mean, I didn't like the prequels so much when they came out. I like 1 and 3, but like 2, I didn't think they were strong as the OT by any means. However, even though I've seen episode 3 more than any other film I think ever, but I like everything that was broken about them, the midichlorians, Plague is fixed. Like artists came in and propped up George's work where he was weak in, his dialogue, etc. They made so much good media around that I'm like, just do that. And I think we would hit a golden age and you wouldn't have to stop. Because again, like you said, Disney kind of has the right idea where they've gone, we could do a trilogy with the start of the Force, or a movie. We could do the Old Republic. We can do Rey's Jedi Temple. Get rid of Rey and do those 3 trilogies. That's 18 years worth of films if you space them out 2 years. Like there is so much that we could dig into, and they've just got to be
do the
great.
Prime Jedi. I really don't want them to do the Origin
The what
of
one?
the Force. The Origin of the Force.
Yeah, I think.
Fuck it.
Tell me why that you don't like the Origins.
I think it's going to be so politically culture war-y, heavy-handed.
What?
That'll like that's my problem. Like they'll make the Origin of the Force fucking something dumb and stupid. Like I think the Force should be left a mystery. I don't need an Origin of the Force. You can have like maybe the formation of the Jedi, fine, but leave the Force alone. I don't want you to fuck it. Because like you said, like just before, there were artists around that could prop up George's work. And I don't think they'll ever have the right stuff or creatives to do that with the shit that they produce. Like even the High Republic, like look at that shit. I'm just like, these books are shit. Like you look at like something like Plagueis, for example. Like people didn't like the midichlorians, but like one of my favorite parts the Plagueis novel is, remember when Sheev, old creamy Sheev, is actually killing Plagueis and he's taunting him, and he's like, "Go on, Plagueis, gather your midichlorians." Like, you know what I mean? Like he was really back to like that was,
and
so
he let him go
good,
for a
like,
minute. He was like, "Cook me." He like woke up and he's like, "Do it," and he's like, he's daring me. He's that in love with himself. No, okay, I agree with I don't I'm talking no politics whatsoever. I'm gonna say something maybe controversial. My least favorite aspects of any mythology are the creation story, because it's usually like a chicken and an egg birth, and then the world spread out, and then the end. You know, like Dragon Ball, where the everybody becomes gods. You know, Luke versus Abeloth. Like I, once you get to God tier or you get to creation tier, and when you said political, I was like imagining like there was only the light in the beginning, and it's just Joe Biden as Anu, and it's like, but then he took a crap, and Trump came out and he's like, I'm the dark side. Like, how would they politicize the birth of the Force? Like, how would you
Why
do
did
that?
I imagine Joe Biden as Carl Katarn
Long hair?
going in the Star Forge and like, "Ah," like all that essence, like,
Oh, you Valley of the Jedi.
yeah. I just
I am
imagine that.
such a nerd. I'm so sorry. I
That's
am
so
so
funny.
sorry. I like had to like that tick inside you.
The tism.
I am. Yeah, I know that was a literal tism moment where I'm like, I could have just said nothing, like a fucking normal human being.
Correct me, I like it.
No, no. I'm like, oh, I'm so ashamed of myself. Valley of the Jedi, Rusan.
Oh, actually.
We go. Actually, that's exactly what I just did. I'm so sorry. No, Bane. You know, you got your Bane trilogy, like I said. Catan. I wrote a 10-year plan with all of these movies and put it out, and like, yeah, cook. It'd be so
Mm.
easy, but I digress. You're right. When the start and the end are the least, because they're the least human. You know what I mean? When it goes God tier, it's the least human aspects of it, and it's really hard to connect to. For me, it's the nitty gritty. It's the human relations. You know, George with his family, Vin Dieseling it out.
Mm. I'm getting corrected in chat. Fucking little
By
geeks.
whom? Which one?
I was about to type it myself. I was like, shut the fuck up.
No. Otaku's my bro. And the best part is you fucked up by saying the Starforge. Look at that. He's got the Starforge banner as his logo. He knows the Starforge, if any man does.
My bad.
It's like, how dare you disrespect? Same response. Pod person, the Thrawn trilogy. I've been listening to Heir of the Empire again, and I'm on book 3 and I can't get through it yet. Just happenstance, because I do it when I do any like mowing or yard work. And I've been a bit lax.
Do you have a ride on
Thrawn.
mower?
Oh, dude, I got 6 acres. Of course, I got a zero
That's
turn
so
mower.
sick. Oh, nice.
That's I literally get a pair of headphones, blast it till my ear. I've literally got tinnitus, so like I blast it to my I can't hear, and I just go and I listen to Thrawn. I listen to Mark Thompson, you know, do all the voices, and I just it's the best way. That or driving or walking. Like I love absorbing audiobooks like that. Star Wars is second to none. But yeah, Thrawn is another good. Like they got so many trilogies that they could pull out that would people pull out, put it in. They could 100% sexualize the Phantom.
Yeah, the sexual stuff of Star Wars has been really weird. Like
That's true. You don't ever think
Like-
of sex and Star Wars together, ever.
no, like you saw like romance. I think romance and like lustfulness are different, if you know what I mean. I mean, like how can I put it? If it's so romance versus horny is what I'm trying to say. Like the Alkalite has some sort of weird like
Book
kinky
talk.
power thing, book talk shit.
Yeah, where he can
And-
murder people, but as long as he's sexy and he dominates her, it doesn't. All these actions are like
Oh,
forgiven.
God.
It's as men. I think see women do that stuff in their novels where the dude can commit genocide, but as long as he's hot or the beast, and he'll take her in a way she likes, she doesn't care. But for men, we have this sense of justice where it's like you will answer for your crimes, and this will fuck the story up if you don't. So when he was just like, let's
I
go
have
in
a
the pool
fuck-
together.
I have a fucked up story. And this is true just to what Dash said. They did a study. I'm not sure if it was done like properly by someone, but anyway, they did someone did a study. It doesn't even have an individual or a school. And they created a a Tinder account. And the Tinder profile was someone that was like they put pictures of like this really ripped, like good looking
I've
dude.
seen that. He was like a 10. He was just a
Yeah, he was gorgeous,
nothing
right?
wrong with
And
him. And he looked like he was well put together and he was like well off. Like
yeah,
everything about him was pristine, where you just
yep,
went, this dude is a magnet. Peak.
yeah. And when he started matching with like obviously copious amounts of girls, he would make this story that like, oh, I was a previous sex offender and had
Yeah.
like kids stuff, and I got convicted of that.
Deadline.
And
Yeah, I saw that.
every girl that was there was like, oh, it's okay, you deserve a second child. And they were literally just because he was forgiven just for being good looking. And I think they did the inverse of that with someone which was less desirable, and they were just getting hammered on, hammered on, hammered on, hammered on. It's just like the most putrid source of pretty privilege I've ever seen. But you're right.
Well, I always take things back to biology, right? Like women have that maternal nurture instinct where they think that they can change dudes. And so they're like, well, he's good looking, so I can breed with him and I'll have beautiful babies, but also I can change him. But as us, we're like putrid. The dude's a kitty diddler, chop his dick off. He doesn't get to breed, right? But they're just like,
Publicly
well,
execute him.
yeah, I'll roll
Yeah.
the dice. And it's like, you motherfuckers, like, again, but it's funny because, like, don't they say the top 5% of guys get like 95% of the attention on dating apps? Like, it's just like, if you're that good looking, shit just goes like, you become a woman at that point. Like the amount of messages you ever heard, like a woman, any woman that's over like a 5 out of 10 gets just a ton of messages. Cause guys, it's a numbers game, and women, like, yeah, it inverses where the dude just gets every single girl throwing themselves at them.
Yep. It's true. I was gonna have a point, something about it, but then my brain just flatlined.
I don't know.
No,
You peeped it. Kitty
no.
Kitty Diddler on Tinder gets forgiven and hit on by women. That was your point.
That was my point.
No, sex in Star Wars.
Yeah, sorry. Like, yeah, so
Book
like
talk.
that sort of thing. Book talk. Like that's what I mean. Like when they're saying like they need to like sort of they want to cast the net, and like, people are just like, oh, but you're gatekeeping. I'm like, I'm not gatekeeping people liking it for what it is. I just don't want your weird shit diluting my IP that I fell in love with. Because it's just like, what the
Agree.
fuck is this? It's like
But
making
they're like,
Thomas the Tank Engine a mafia movie. It's just like, why would you do that?
because
Like,
they want to double their audience. They're just like, how do we get the women? Because then we get double the money. But they don't see there's riches and niches, and that the harder you go, it sounds counterintuitive, but the more that you appeal to your target audience, the more wider net you cast. They don't fucking understand that. And they go, we've got to make a movie for the kids because Star Wars is for kids and that sells toys. We've got to make a movie for the bros, but they're a fucking bunch of dumbass chuds. So maybe them last. But women, we haven't cornered the woman market. That's why we hired Kathleen. What do you say to that, Kathy? And she's like, do the opposite of, no, what is it? Put a chicken out, make it gay. And they're like, well, Kathy said this. And then, no, I get that. It's just, it's baffling to me. But also, to that point, Star Wars is a big universe. I genuinely believe if they put out 3 to 5 movies a year and they ticked the core audience market so well, they were like, we've also got a new Star Wars corner of the universe, the romance core. I don't think
mm,
if they tick the box enough for the bros on streaming or whatever, I don't think we would give two shits if there was Star Wars for the ladies. It's when they get all the audiences and hodgepodge into the main thing, and you're just like,
mhm.
this is for no one. I think that was what I took umbrage with Mando and Grogu. It's like, as we always said, tonal whiplash of you could feel kid, adult, kid, adult. Mando beats people up, uses a flamethrower that he gets down. Grogu does the cutesy flip and, spends a third of the movie trying to bring Mando back to life in a swamp. And,
They
you
did
know,
that in the Acolyte. They did that in the Acolyte. Do you remember there was the who was the kid on Game of Thrones that played the Jedi in the Acolyte? The apprentice, the blonde one, Corbin, where he became bald after like a couple of years and he was floating.
what?
He was floating.
He was
Remember, he
from
was.
Game of Thrones. I only remember
I think
Daphne
he was.
Keane out of Wolverine. Logan.
I think he was Game. I think he was Game of Thrones. But anyway, there was a point when like all the Force witches or someone started shooting at him, and he got his lightsaber and he was doing the Anakin move under and over, like repeatedly, like just spamming it. And I
Yeah.
was just like, remember Anakin? I was like, shut up, stop. Like, why can't Anakin just have it and let him be special? Like, why do I need that to attract me? And then I looked at X or Twitter, and it was all those normies going, "Oh my god, did you see him do the Annie over and under?" I was like, I fucking hate you all. Like, seriously, fuck off.
You want to hear about like, okay, this is when I realized that I'd broken free of the mind control. When I stopped believing Disney was going to serve the audience.
That's the one.
Andor, they had a Gungan skull, and it had a stamp on it of our old friend, that Dana Taku, the Starforge, gold stamp in it. Now, that was like 2 Easter eggs in one, and it was in Luthen's lair. Great character. I'll give credit where it's due. Again, A-list actor Stellan Skarsgård carrying, but I was like, oh my God, they can make shit media, and as long as they pepper in Easter eggs of the media that we used to love, like EU shit, people are like, it may be Star Killer. Like, they will forgive shit media if there is an egg. And I was like, fuck that. I'm so over that. Don't dangle keys of like, remember Anakin, like the member berries. It's like Disney hates the older content, but they will begrudgingly put a legacy character like Yoda's appearance in or Ki-Adi-Mundi, whatever, into it just to sell it. But they do it begrudgingly. They're like, nobody wants to see this old shit. This could be a Revan cameo. And you're like, Darth Plagueis, perfect. You know?
They did it with in I think Andor as well in Luthen's artifact shop thing. Didn't they have the helmet of didn't they have the helmet of Tulak Horde as well?
I thought they had Starkiller's helmet. It could have been Tulak. I remember Starkiller's helmet when he went bad. Your hated dark side ending Starkiller that you said it shouldn't happen. This is the greatest rant of history. I wish I clipped that. I was just like, that was one of my favorites, dude. You're just out of control with that.
Mm.
You know what I love? I love when people have shit that I can't conceptualize or agree with on any level, but I love that it's because it comes from a place of authenticity. I don't care. Like, I'm like, I love that you exist. I love that you, my friend, don't want several endings to The Force Unleashed because you get confused by canon or whatever. Like, I cannot get over that. I love that shit, but I'm just like, I know you've been honest, so I don't care. That's all I ask for is honesty.
It was just a tism. It was like when when Han and stuff are fleeing in New Hope, and then Starkiller fights Obi-Wan and then fights his Force Ghost. I'm like, oh, fuck off. This is weird.
But people like carte blanche, they were fun. Yeah. I just, just forgiving because of the Ewoks. On that note, I think that we've hit the peak. Thank you so much to everybody that has tuned in. If you want to see more of these types of discussions, or you want us to focus more on current events, current law, let us know, because I think that we've really hit our stride as the bros, all of us collectively just chatting. But also, I don't want to tread the same ground every week. The last thing I just can't do it, bro. I can't talk about politics. I can't talk about gender studies, or, you know what I mean? Like, we will endeavor to broaden, or I should say actually focus in on some topics as well. Like, maybe get some news out at the start, talk about that, and then we go into some shit that we want to talk about that isn't treading the same ground. Because, it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, it's more just like, there's only so many ways we can say the same thing, you know?
Yeah, it's true. We don't want to become broken records.
What is there really to talk about as far as Star Wars goes, though, honestly? Shit that we love, shit that exists, shit that we don't. I'm just saying that, like, there is things that continually happen that we can touch on, but not go as deep, spend 2 hours on the same thing. Like, that's all I worry about. Like, we can definitely talk about everything.
Even comparisons on like stuff that we like I think the next tier list that Dash and I have to do is the movies. Because we did the video games, so we got the movies, and then we can like delve into that. Like I said, I do want to host like community game nights as well.
I think
Or, like,
game
even
nights is
for
going to be peak.
the Star Wars power battles between me and Dash, watch us screaming and shit. It'd be funny as.
You know, it'd be cool
Just
when Galactic Racer comes out and we can have the audience jump in, like maybe get
embrace. Yeah,
race all together.
that'd be fun.
Sick. Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be good.
But yeah, agreed. We'll figure it out. I'm just saying, I was just letting people know we appreciate you and that we're this is like we really want the community aspect to come in because I think that we're both comfortable and found a rhythm. Would you say? Sweet. He's about to tell me off camera that I suck.
No, 100%. I think we found a rhythm. It's good. I think we vibe with you guys, and like I said, like we do want to make a community of bros. So we want to interact with you as much as we can. That's why, like, I always want to give you guys a tier list. You guys throw them in Dash's Discord, X, tweet us, whatever. And if you have questions and want to talk to us, we're available.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that is our literal end game, is just to create a community. Because if Star Wars, Disney, whatever, doesn't have new content to be excited about, we still want to have the fireside chat of why it's not fun, but also what we love and like celebrate. It's still a celebration, as weird as that sounds. Like we're only here because we love Star Wars, right?
That's it. 100%.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. We'll see you not next week, the week after. Next week is probably my favorite day of the last 2 years. The braces come off.
Oh, are we going to see some like pearly white photos in the Discord or on X? You're going to smile for us?
Oh yeah. Not only that, they've put gaps in my teeth, these 2 teeth, until they have to replace 2 of these teeth with crowns. So I'm going to have like a weird ass like holes in my smile. So I'm happy about this.
So they take the braces off and then they're going to extract the teeth?
No, they're going to these 2 next to my front, they're going to put crowns.
Oh, right. Yeah, nice.
Which is funny because I had straight teeth with no gaps before any of this. Even my front tooth is like crooked. I don't know what they're doing. As long as my bite's better and I stop grinding my teeth to paste, I don't care.
100%.
All right. We'll see you not next week, the week after. Again, join us on Discord, which should be linked below, and we'll keep the chat going. And as always, may the force be with you.
Always.
God damn it. No, I nearly left studio instead of ended the stream. Fuck me.